הרדיו הבינתחומי. בינתחומי. 106.2 FM.
Jigga Juice, שעה שנייה, switching to English in a moment. אנחנו ברדיו הבינתחומי, 106.2 FM. אני תומר גרשנמן, ואנחנו בתוכנית ה-300 של Jigga Juice, המקום שלכם להיפ-הופ, גם ב-jjuiceradio.com ובאייטיונס. תודה רבה לכונת מושון שהיו פה בשעה הראשונה, ועכשיו לשעה השנייה אני רוצה לעבור לאנגלית, ולהישאר בה ברשותכם. What up, everybody? You're listening to Jigga Juice on IDC Radio, episode number 300. I'm Tomer Gersherman, and for the second hour, I would like to switch to English because I have very special guests in the house. The group who was the first to record a hip-hop song. Good evening, Sugarhill Gang.
Hey, what's happening? What's happening? What's up, Jigga Juice?
What up, guys?
Hey, what's up?
It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
So, Wonder Mike is not here, but who do we got on the mics?
Master G.
Hen Dog.
Rob the Noise.
Yes, and thank you so much for coming in. Really, this means
No doubt.
a lot. And you know, it's a huge honor, especially for such a celebratory episode, to have you guys in here. So, thanks for coming. And you're going to perform a show at the Passage along with Lucille Crew. So, big up to Lucille Crew, by the way.
Yes.
No doubt.
Definitely.
And you know, there's a lot to talk about. But before we do any of that, let's start by playing one of your songs
That sounds
off of your second album, Eighth Wonder,
All right.
Apache.
All right.
Apache, Sugarhill Gang. So, guys, what type of music did you grow up listening to?
Wow. Rufus, Chaka Khan,
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Ohio Players,
Yep. Marvin Gaye.
Miles Davis,
Yep.
Coltrane, Charlie Parker, Max Roach.
So,
Al Green.
and you know, usually when I have rappers on the show, I ask them that question, usually referring to hip hop, you know, and they say, but in your case, there weren't any song.
No.
Well, except King Tim the Third.
He came out around the same time we did.
Oh,
He
but
did not came out. He was not before us.
oh, you did not record that song before?
He recorded it, but it came out the same. It came out maybe a week before us.
Oh, okay. And
So it wasn't out.
It didn't make the same impact that
No,
as you guys did.
no. Unfortunately, in his case, for him,
But you know, in regards to the hip hop culture, did you guys used to attend parties in the parks?
our own parties. See, back in those days, you know, in the northern New Jersey area, myself and Mike, we were kind of the two. We were involved with the two groups that did the parties. So the parties that I went to were the parties that I did. And you see, everybody doesn't really understand that New York and northern New Jersey were kind of like two different worlds back in those days. And I was too young to go to New York and hang out. Well, my parents wouldn't let me do that.
So Jersey had its own scene.
Exactly.
But so you were not there, for example, on that night on Cedric Avenue.
No, I didn't even know anything about Cedric until I became, you know, a recording artist. Mine was Palisade Avenue in Englewood.
So, but the story about how the Sugarhill Gang was formed is a legendary one. Could you maybe tell it for the benefit of those who are unfamiliar with it?
Yeah, there were initially Sylvia had heard somebody rapping at a party in Harlem.
That's Sylvia Robinson.
Yes, and so she had a studio set up, and when she found out nobody had ever done a recording of the rapping, she was inspired to want to do a project. So they approached the guy that was in a DJ group that her son knew, but the guy turned her down. So in the process of the guy turning her down, she proceeded to go into an audition situation. And they knew about a guy from the Bronx that made pizzas in our neighborhood. That would be Big Bank. And so he auditioned in front of the pizza parlor. And then I walked up. And then later on that night, Mike actually auditioned because we thought it was only going to be one person. So Mike auditioned like at the end of the evening. And rather than choose one of us, she picked all three of us.
And you know, as for Sylvia Robinson, I know there was a flip side to her, but we get to that. But what was it like working with her from the positive side?
Oh, you know, and you know, going beyond that situation, Sylvia was a genius, man.
Yeah.
She was a genius.
Very savvy.
No, Sylvia was a genius. When it came to music, understanding words, understanding talent, she was a genius, man. There's nothing negative about Sylvia. You know, a lot of people have a misconception, especially on my part, because of the fact that I've been involved with her since the whole thing began. Sylvia is one of the most inspirational people in my life.
Yeah, she don't get nearly the credit that she deserves for what she did.
Exactly.
I meant like the problem from the business side, but of course she had the eyes for it and she had the senses. And
there was other things going on.
You have to remember when she had the idea to do it, all the record labels in New York told her that it wouldn't work. They told her that she was crazy, that it would never work.
And did you guys know each other before she assembled you into a group?
No, see, I knew Mike. I knew of Mike. Mike and I weren't friends, or now we're the best of friends. We've been friends for almost 40 years. He's my brother. But we didn't know each other like that. I had actually never spoke to Mike until the night of the rehearsal. And then from that point on, we got to be cool. But we just knew of each other. That's it.
Okay, so before getting up to that song we are talking about and the song you ended up recording, the first one, let's do another one of the second album of Eighth Wonder, a song we can all relate to here in Israel, Hot, Hot Summer's Day.
Okay.
Oh, really?
That's it. Hot, Hot Summer's Day, Sugarhill Gang. Way too hot if you ask me. How is it for you guys coping with the weather?
Here?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's like being in New York.
Yeah.
The weather's in the summertime it's humid and hot.
Yeah. In New York.
25, 30, 30 degrees like this, same thing.
Yeah.
So it's normal.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
Okay, so we talked about rappers we like, but let's really talk about that song. And because we only mentioned it so far. So when we talked about Sylvia Robinson too, and how she assembled you and got you guys into a group together. But what was it like actually going in and recording that song? Did you have any idea what would follow?
No. Well, Mike always says that he knew that the record was going to be as big as it has become. I had no clue. I mean, I thought that the record was going to be big in New York and New Jersey and Connecticut.
Like the tri-state.
I thought it would be a big record in the tri-state area because that's what was going on at that time. As far as us going in the studio recording it, before we went in the studio, we did a lightweight rehearsal to see what each person had lyrically. And that's how we decided who would be first, who would be second, and who would be third. So Mike, because he said, what you hear is not a test, I'm rapping to the beat, sounded like a good way to start the record off, the first verse. Like we were talking about.
Yeah.
And then Hank came in and, he was the rebel, the CAS and the party guy and hotel, motel. So that would be good for the second one. And then I was supposed to come in, to bring in, the extra element that, that smoothness or whatever. Yeah. And then because back in those days when you did a party, we did what's called a pass. And you passed the mic by giving a cue. So 1, 2, 3, 4, tell me one to Mike what are you waiting for is the cue to let Mike know. Like I'd say, 1, 2, 3, 4, tell me what you're waiting for is your cue. That lets you know I'm going to stop and you keep going so that the raps never stop. So the thing about the record is that the way they recorded it was 15 minutes worth of music. Because we were so new to recording, we didn't know anything about stopping and starting and punching and all of that.
So you just did it as if you were performing live.
Right. So we just kept going. So the first verse went. We passed it back. I passed it back to Mike. He went again. Hank passed it back. We just kept going. The only reason why we stopped is because the music stopped.
And you mentioned Hank and the CAS, so that's something I want to talk about. The controversy with Grandmaster Caz and and his rhyme, Big Bang Hank's rhymes, written by Caz.
Yes.
Did you know that at the time when you
were recording? We had no clue. Again, you got to remember, I said it earlier, we weren't venturing into that scene. We had no clue what was going on in the Bronx. Hank was the only connection that I had to what was going on as far as a rapper from the Bronx. So, it's not, in those days it wasn't the internet and all of that. There wasn't a lot of information being passed back and forth across the bridge. So we assumed that because I wrote everything, and to this day, 98% of the songs that I do, I write, unless I, collaborate or whatever the case may be. Mike wrote 98% of the stuff that he did. I mean, the conversation was, if you was a rapper, you wrote your own lyrics. So we assumed that he did too. So when he started talking about he was a CAS and OVA and the rest is after a while, we thought it meant, he was calling himself Casanova Fly. We didn't even know there was such a person going by that name. We didn't know that there was a guy in the Bronx named Casanova Fly. Because if we would have known that when he said, I'm a CSLVA and the rest of that Fly, I'd have been like, wait a minute, that's Kaz. But I didn't know. We didn't know. So we didn't really realize until the record was recorded, it was released, it was out. And then, Kaz surfaced and we found out.
Right.
But by then it was too late.
Right.
Did it create any conflict within the group when you found out?
No, man, we were so big back in them days, man, it didn't matter. We were huge.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing too was people really didn't give it the credit that it eventually ended up getting. Because when the record first came out, it was a big deal. It was a big deal to everybody, people in New York, all over the world. So Kaz's situation was kind of dwarfed because the record was so huge. This controversy didn't really come out till much, much, much later on.
Right.
It now is connected to the music. But back in those days, people no one even asked us about it.
Right.
And so once it became known, it didn't really do any damage or anything. It didn't really.
No. I mean, in the streets, there was, certain issues. Credibility issues, because there were certain people that thought that, when they found out Hank didn't write his lyrics, then people was thinking Mike and I didn't write our lyrics.
Right.
But of course, that wasn't true.
Right.
So, once we, and then as things went on and time goes on, people realized, because after Rabbit's Delight was Eighth Wonder. After Eighth Wonder was Apache, is a Fast Lane, and I mean these are songs that Mike and I collaborated and wrote.
And who wrote the Big Bang Hank's rhymes for these songs? Cause
We did.
You did?
Yeah, Mike and I.
Right.
See, when we went into Sugar Hill Groove and all these different records, once we started going into the writing process, Hank would be there, but he would never come up with anything. So after a while, and then the controversy came out, and we found out. So then eventually got to the point where we just wrote. But the thing about Hank is this, and this is the reason why I say this in every interview. Hank was an amazing vocalist.
Yeah.
And the world over, there's countless artists that don't write a word.
Right.
But they sing their behind on
Yeah,
it.
now the issue's back up again with Drake. Everybody talking about.
Well, there you go. See, there's a prime
yeah.
example. He didn't write his lyrics, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And that's the other thing too about successful people. There's always going to be something good and bad about something. It's not just going to give him a clean slate.
Right.
The guy's successful, and I really think it's really crazy because he's super talented.
Right.
He's got a great voice. He's got a good style.
Yeah.
He's got a major hit records.
Yeah.
Leave him alone, man. Let him do his thing.
And the other thing I want to set the record straight too. Hank didn't steal anything from Kaz. Kaz gave him the lyrics. Hank asked Kaz for some lyrics to record a record. So it wasn't no blueprint back then for recording no rap record.
Yeah, did they ever resolve the controversy before Hank passed
Hank
away?
and Kaz knew each other.
Yeah.
They knew each other before we knew him. We
Yeah,
knew
but-
either one of them.
I said, did they? Because I know there was serious beef between them afterwards. So did they ever resolve it before Hank passed away?
We don't know.
I think so. I mean, I've been at shows to whereas Kaz and Hank have been in the same room together, and I think they squashed it. But still, it was in the back of Kaz's mind that he really think that he should have received something for those lyrics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and when was the last time you guys performed together with Hank?
We haven't performed with Hank in over 10. Well, I haven't performed with Hank since 1994 was the last time I performed with Hank.
Been 10 years since I performed with him.
All right. And the Hip Hop Honors Awards?
I wasn't there.
He what?
He talking about the Hip Hop Honors when the group. I wasn't there.
Oh yeah, they
Oh,
brought
I
out
was,
MC
yeah.
Hammer.
Right.
MC Hammer was out there with us.
Was
Yeah.
fitting in.
I wasn't there.
Yeah. And Nile Rodgers.
That was during my sabbatical.
Right.
Yeah, there was a long sabbatical in between.
I didn't
Right.
think it was going to be that long, but
Right.
And so, what were the other responses to the song inside the culture?
Oh, they were not the best.
Uh-uh.
On the street level, they were very uptight about the fact that some guys from Jersey, were the first ones to go global.
Yeah.
Because in all honesty, and I tell people this all the time, we're not the pioneers. The pioneers are Kool Herc and Melly
Right.
Mel and Scorpio,
Right.
and Kaz, and those are the real pioneers.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
came up with the whole concept of doing DJing and rapping and the whole nine yards.
Right.
So for a long time, You know, it wasn't. We weren't respected on the street level. We were respected on the commercial level.
Right.
You just beat those guys to the punch, actually.
Well,
Basically, yeah.
Basically, it's almost like
That's what happened.
what's his name? Mark with Facebook. You know, the controversy with that.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You know, they were claiming that two guys had the idea, but
Brothers.
Yeah, the
two brothers.
Winklevoss.
Yeah, but Mark beat him to the punch.
Exactly, because I know Russell Simmons and Curtis Blow were making moves, also the Treacherous 3, but...
All that stuff was going on in New York.
Yeah.
And see, I think at that time, because Sylvia had the studio, she had the experience, she had the whole setup, and in New York, it wasn't going on like that. They didn't have that. They were doing parties. They were doing, you know, moving equipment around. You know, Sylvia had the facility.
Right.
So...
And she had to know how to put the record out.
And she had the means to be able to put the record out. That, you know, everybody, you know, a lot of cats in the city didn't have that.
Okay, so we talked about the record so much. How about we hear it?
Like-
Rappers Delight, Sugarhill Gang. Jigga Juice, episode 300 here on IDC Radio 106.2 FM. Check out Jigga Juice online at jjuiceradio.com. Also available on iTunes. Make sure you subscribe. Sugarhill Gang in the house, very exciting. And in the background, we're hearing the cover of Rapper's Delight by the Def Squad, Eric Sermon, Keith Murray, and Redman. What do you guys think of the cover version?
Oh no, the cover's really good. As a matter of fact, I spoke with Eric Sermon, I think, right? Is in it? I spoke with him because we were just on tour in the States. We did this thing called Art of Rap tour.
Yeah.
And
With Ice-T.
Yeah,
yes.
Live Nation.
Yeah, and EPMD, they were on the show. So actually I had a chance to talk to Eric Sermon about that. And he said that he said that the label had an album where they had different artists covering. So they chose Rapper's Delight for them to do. And then they got Keith Murray, and it was 3 of them.
Yeah.
So that's why they used Rapper's Delight. And what ended up happening is we were actually doing the concert. We were on stage performing, so some guy ran out on the stage while I was actually doing my verse. And he's taking his phone, and he's putting his phone. I said, who is this guy? And he said, I'm Keith Murray. I did this. I did it because of you. You're the reason why I actually. So he had his phone. I guess he must have been FaceTiming it or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, he came out on the stage, and I kept seeing somebody in the back while I was performing. You know, and it was unusual. And then I finally got up to me, and it was Keith. Yeah. So he said the reason why he did it is because of me.
Wow, and that's a really great tribute on their part.
Absolutely.
Or do you guys prefer the Brian Williams version? The one that they did on the Tonight Show?
Oh, no, that one's cool, too.
Yeah, that was cool,
we just
too.
did the Tonight Show. We actually just did the Tonight Show in April.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I saw when you
April
were...
7th.
We
Yeah,
did,
with Jimmy Fallon.
Summer hashtags and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah, we just did that.
So, guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about the whole old school era of hip-hop. Because, you know, during the time when you were coming up, you had crews like Cold Crush or Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5. And so many. And so what was it like being in this environment, seeing the whole thing come together, even though you were in Jersey? But I'm guessing that after the song, you did become a bigger part
Yeah,
of it.
we used to, you know, there was a place called the Disco Fever. If you're listening to the Lala song in my verse, you hear me talking about we all hung out at the Disco Fever. DJ Flash in Hollywood made it happen in the streets of Manhattan. That is kind of like a tribute rap to that music scene. That's why I was trying to say, like I know earlier where we were saying, I wanted people to always understand that the real pioneers of rap are, you know, Flash and Mel and Scorp and, you know, all the cats, all the guys, Bambaataa,
Kool Herc.
Yeah, Herc and all them cats that were in the Bronx and in Manhattan. Those are the pioneers. You know, that's why, as a matter of fact, like I said, that's why I actually wrote that rap that I use in the Lala song.
And so what was it like for you, actually, you know, seeing that whole thing come together, you know, witnessing it? Did it feel like you're being a part of something big?
Again, man, you know, I was a kid, so I was having fun, man. History, you don't know history's happening when you're in it. You know, you understand what I'm saying? So at that time, man, I was just living my life. I was 17, 18 years old. So what was going on around me was what, you know, I was just being exposed to more of what I was already doing. You know, the ideal of it, again, the concept of being into it 38 years, man, and be talking to people here in, you know, Tel Aviv and that kind of thing.
How far it got.
It didn't, man. Not me.
So there's this new show, The Get Down. Have you seen it? Do you think it reflects the reality of that time?
it's Flash's interpretation of his portion of what happened.
Yep.
That's what it is.
That's all.
And so guys, let's maybe get a taste of that era and hear your collaboration with the Furious Five.
Sure.
The Showdown.
Oh my gosh.
I'm digging up the tracks.
You are definitely taking them up.
Showdown. A collaboration track before it became popular.
That's right. Yeah.
How did that song come about, actually?
The track was a song that was presented to Miss Robinson, Sylvia, by Maurice Starr and Michael Johnson, who are the cats that actually also wrote and founded New Edition and New Kids on the Block. And at that time, Sylvia couldn't decide who was going to do the song. At one point, we were going to do the song by ourselves, and at another point, she was going to get a song to Mel and score. And then in her vision, she decided to put us both on there together. So we thought the song was going to be just doing the song, like we were going to do a verse and they were going to do a verse. And we wrote the lyrics in different places. When we finally got in the studio and we put down our verse, then when Scorp and Mel and them got, we said, wait a minute, they battling us. So we just, at that point, we had already wrote what we already written what we were going to do, and it was done. But it was still, our interpretation of what was going on. And then later on, many times, like we would go to a city and people were like, who won the showdown, and it'd be a thing that radio stations would do.
Did you get to perform that with them?
Yeah, we used to do it. At one time, we were on a thing called the Sugarhill Review. And so it would be Sequence and Funky 4 Plus One More and Flash and Furious would co-star, and we would headline. And so they would come out during our show and do the showdown.
Wow, so that also show you, I think, the spirit of a competition that was in hip-hop back then.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, especially when they came to the label.
Yeah.
There was a lot of competition back in those days.
Yeah.
Everybody's fighting for their spot, actually.
Yeah, everybody's trying to, especially because they felt like, we weren't really kind of entitled to all the fame and success that we were achieving because we weren't the Bronx.
Getting back to the responses to the song we were talking about.
Yeah. And not just the song. I mean, like I said, once Eighth Wonder came out and Apache came out and all that, I mean, I was the first rap star.
Right.
Yeah.
In my time.
Right.
So,
It really solidified you guys.
no question.
And plus, Sylvia had a unique way of putting two people, keeping them in competition with each other, to keep them sharp, to keep that edge. You know what I'm saying?
And that's something that I think is sometimes missing today, that competitiveness.
What are you talking about? Our music or just
music in general?
Music in general.
I don't know, man.
Well,
it's pretty competitive, man.
It's pretty competitive.
I mean, yeah, because when everybody was talking back when a few years ago when Kendrick did that control verse and he was naming names.
Right.
Yeah,
that's pretty competitive.
that's like the spirit of it. But a lot of people were taken aback by it. It's like, why are we taken aback? This is how it should be.
Well, that's where it came from.
Yeah. Well, today, music or hip hop, they use that competitive edge to draw attention to themselves. Because now, there's no such thing as negative publicity. Any kind of publicity is great publicity, because it puts the shine on that particular individual.
For sure. And, speaking of the then and now, I want to ask you, I mean, you being the first crew to release a record and being that, you've seen it all, the Grandmaster Flashes, the Rakims, KRSs, NWAs, Native Tongues, Nas, Jay-Z, everybody, even the Crunk, Pharrell, Kanye, to Kendrick, to trap music today. What was your favorite era?
My favorite era is all the eras.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you why. All the eras have their Sugarhill Gang. They have their Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five. Every era has its representation, and you have to take it, like you said. Speaking from a position that I'm in, because I'm the first of my kind, this is an amazing situation. Like I said, I didn't know at that time that it was going to end up being this, but look what it's become.
Right.
So it just continues to be very interesting, and so many people are benefiting as a result of it.
And it's like too, like if someone was to ask you if you had a son, they would say to you, what's the best time of your son's life? And you would say, well, all the time, because your son is evolving. Just like, hip-hop music is evolving. It's always evolving. it's evolving right into today.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a great concept.
That's a good answer.
True answer.
But
Well put, too.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay.
that totally deserved it.
Yeah, I had to give him that.
And but what's in your tape deck? What do you listen to these days?
I'm listening to a group called the Internet. I'm listening to a group
Oh,
called
very
the
good.
Internet. Foreign exchange. I listen to Sting. I listen to a lot of stuff, man, off the hip. You know, a lot of classic R&B. You know, I don't really listen to a whole lot of rap music, but I do listen to Wiz Khalifa. I like Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah, he was just
Yeah.
here in Israel.
I like Wiz Khalifa.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my boy.
Yeah, he
yeah,
performed
there.
Wiz
Talented.
is, yeah.
Very talented.
What's up, Wiz?
Super talented.
No doubt.
But then there's this big argument in hip hop these days. You know, with on one hand you got the old school rappers criticizing today's hip hop acts and their lyrical content or the flow that kinda I guess doesn't sound like words. And on the other hand, you got the young kids saying that you know that they just want to have fun and they don't care about about Biggie and Tupac. They were just with Lil Yachty said it in an interview. It just it was criticized. But what's your take on all of this?
My take is that everybody is doing what they've been given an opportunity to do.
To
You know?
express themselves.
I don't have anything bad to say about today's rappers. As a matter of fact, I applaud them
Yeah.
because, you know, a lot of them are saying and doing the same things that we were doing. When I was 18, 19, and 20 years old, I wanted to get a date. I wanted to make a lot of money, and I wanted to look good for the people. And that's what's going on right now.
Yeah. And you know, these are, I also agree because these are kids who grew up on on
Exactly.
Soulja Boy or Lil
Exactly.
Jon, not
Right.
on Run
Exactly.
DMC
So
or
it's
Right.
their interpretation,
Right.
And it's not fair to down somebody's interpretation of what they are talking about.
Right.
People did the same thing to me.
Right.
So why would I turn around? People said that what I talked about and what I was doing was garbage.
Right.
It wasn't talent. Exact same thing that people say about today's rappers. So how can I turn around and do that to somebody?
Right, and plus too, you
I
have
would
to
never do
you
that.
have to realize
I'd never
too
say that.
how much influence these record labels have on these artists. You know what I'm saying? If an artist come in with a certain type of record, you know the record label's not gonna get behind it if they think it's not gonna make money. They're in the business to make money. It's a business. You know what I'm saying? So you have to look at it that way. So if the people out there is listening to a certain type of music, that's what you have to cater to, that audience.
Exactly, and you know there are ways to get. I guess there are ways to get around it, like what De La Soul just did with their album. By the way, have you heard it? It's phenomenal,
I haven't heard it yet.
really good. So
I heard
when
it,
they
though. I
went
heard
to
about it, though.
yeah,
Right.
when they went to crowdfunding and they didn't want to go through the label,
Right.
through a label. So I like that there are many possibilities today. And
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. You know,
Yeah.
and I excuse me, but that's what I'm point. There's so many different ways of expressing yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a direct result of how it's blown up.
For sure, and you got people both. I mean, you got people like I don't know, like the trap music guys, and you got guys like Kendrick Lamar on the top of
Exactly.
the
Yeah,
game. So
exactly.
there's a lot to
Exactly.
choose from.
That's
That-
right.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I like. Okay, so let's hear the Eighth Wonder track. I
Sure.
think it's about time for that.
Why don't? Let's do that.
Let's do that.
It's a good record.
Eighth Wonder, another Sugarhill Gang classic. Now, guys, I want to talk to you about the documentary. I Want My Name Back. We don't have much time, but I wanted to ask you, because I have to admit, I did not know about the dark side of Sugarhill Records. I guess what they showed there before watching it. For listeners who have not seen the documentary, can you please tell the listeners some of the stuff that it includes?
Well, it in a nutshell, it tells the good, the bad, and the ugly of the record business.
Exactly.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
I mean, there's good and bad in everything.
Yeah.
You know, and as meteoric and
Right.
as iconic as our music is, you have to understand that a situation that's this big has negative things connected to it, and unfortunately, in that situation comes contract disputes and financial situations that need to be dealt with, and trademark infringements and all these different kind of things, and all that was part of the story.
Yeah, because for you there was even a fake Master G at one point.
At one point, there was somebody out there impersonating me. Yeah, absolutely.
They didn't even want to let you and Mike use your own name.
And then eventually, when Mike and I reconnected, and we started touring and performing, they tried to stop us from being who we are.
Right.
How was it settled? Because the documentary ends, when the documentary ends, it's still not really settled.
Oh, it's done.
It's
done. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here if it wasn't done.
Yeah, there's no way that we'd be here. We perform under the name Sugarhill Gang. And,
Right.
I have the trademark to Master G, and Mike has his trademark, and we're good.
Yeah.
And we're at peace with the family.
Yeah.
That same family that we were arguing with.
Right.
Now we're brothers in the struggle.
Right. Big shout out to Leland Robinson.
So you're all in good terms?
100% good terms.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. The feud is over. The fight is done.
Yeah.
That's very good to hear.
Yeah.
Now we don't have we don't have much time, but given the racial tension over in America and the Black Lives Matter movement, I would really like to hear your take on it, especially for guys who have such a wide perspective.
I you know what I think, man? I think that everybody is hypersensitive now. I think things have gotten out of control. I think they've gotten out of control on both sides, though. I think that the police are way too casual with the way that they approach situations. But in the same respect, you can't get caught coming out of a house you don't go in. A lot of these situations have to do with people that are putting themselves in harm's way. I mean, if you don't want to deal with a police officer, don't steal a car.
Right.
I mean, come on. Because when coming up, I knew that there were certain things that I could do and couldn't do. My parents explained that to me. So, I mean, knowing that situation, I'm going to do what I can. I think what everybody has to do is cool out and come to terms and understand that people are people. And once people start understanding that and respecting each other's space, I think we can start making things a lot better over in the States.
Right.
Let's hope that happens.
Right.
Yeah.
I was watching something on CNN that really caught my attention, and it was a old politician. I think he.
Don't have a lot of time.
Oh, well, that's right. We don't have a lot of time. But in a nutshell, he was saying that he thinks he went back to the Second Amendment. He thinks that the Second Amendment could be, needs to be modified. It's a difference in the world we're living in today than the world that we was living in when the Second Amendment was wrote. You know what I'm saying? And that registered with me a lot. And I think people really need to, come together, and they need to discuss discuss the root of the problem. The root of the problem is what the biggest thing is.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, guys, thank you so much for being here. Sugarhill Gang.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's really exciting, and everybody.
We appreciate you, man.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, guys, and thanks for tuning in to the 300th show, episode number 300. It was a very exciting double feature. Thanks to the good people at IDC Radio. Thanks to Cornet Mushon, and of course, again, thanks to you guys, Sugarhill Gang, for being here.
Thank you.
Couldn't have asked for a better way to celebrate the landmark.
Thank you so much.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom. My name is Tomer Gershon, and we're gonna wrap it up with one last Sugarhill Gang, living in the fast lane.
Oh, that's a good record.
Peace out. Yalla, bye.